Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you may be. You are watching the show when we talk about the things that go bump in the night, where we talk about all things comics, sci-fi, horror, fantasy, pop culture, and everything in between. And that is, of course, Sketching Past Midnight live, coming at you live from Olympus Mons, Mars, the fourth planet from the sun, I think. And I am, of course, your host, CB Smallwood, as this little doohickey here indicates, in case for anyone that is lost. And let's go ahead and remove that so we can have just a little bit more. Can I remove it? Can I get rid of that? Show display names. I want to click this off. Will it go away? Oh, it sure did. Check that out. Nice. I'm learning to use this bad boy more and more every day. Okay, so we got things to talk about today. We've got um, fantasy women that we're working on here, and we've also got headless goats. Headless goats. Okay, that's coming up. We've also got I don't know. Whatever progress I got to talk about the Super American thing that I may have coming up. Any updates about the Wildcat anthology, Wildcat this, Wildcat that, all kinds of great Wildcat goodness may or may not be coming your way. Who knows? With that said, let's get in today's breaking news. Okay, this just in from my trusted website, Odie. If we can get it to focus just a little bit. It's not necessary for you to be able to read it because I will read it to you. Maybe if I do this. All right. So, 30 headless, sacrificed goats found floating in the Georgia River. That's right. You read that right. Or actually, you probably can't read it, but I read it for you. 30 headless sacrificed goats found floating in the Georgia River. And this was posted as of September the 3rd, 2021, by our most excellent friend, Ili Kapila. Really need to figure out how to read their name. Okay. If you see an unspeakable elder god rising from the Chattahoochee, hopefully I pronounced that correct, this might be why. You may think decapitating goats as part of a religious ritual is something that only happens in horror movies. If that's true, then Georgia has been ripped from the earth and dropped into the Hollywood gore fest. Now, let me tell you something. This person is an excellent writer. Locals living by the Chattahoochee River, which runs through Georgia, made a gruesome discovery on August the 27th. Let's see. Let me do that. God, can't see anything. Okay. On top of the usual varieties of aquatic life, a new kind of animal appeared in the river: headless goats. And we're not talking about just one or two goats. People noticed a herd of around 30 decapitated goat corpses floating down the stream. Jason, blah, 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 from the environmental group Chattahoochee Riverkeeper told Channel 2 Action News that the goats were found near the I-20 bridge crossing the river. On Friday, August 27, we were out here and saw 30 of them floating down river, said blah, 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 blah. One local even managed to catch the dumping of the goats on video, according to the blah, blah man. The video shows the splashes as the corpse plummeted into the river. This isn't the first time people have discovered headless goats in the Chattahoochee either. Over the years, more than 200 decapitated goat carcasses have ended up in the water. Lately, it's becoming a lot more frequent. And again, I apologize for the video quality. Over the past couple of years, I've seen a couple of hundred, but never more than 20 to 30 at one given time, like we've started to see here lately. He added that the local who shot the video of the goats being dumped can often hear it happening, even in broad daylight. He actually hears the body splashing down, not only in the middle of the night, but he told me he hears them in the middle of the day, said Mr. Blah Blah, the headless he-goat of victory. So what exactly is going on in Georgia? Has a satanic goat sacrificing cult taken root in the state? Well, not quite. That said, the main suspect is unconventional religious group. Although there are no official police investigations ongoing, at least yet, most people are pointing their fingers at a local community practicing Santeria, a syncretic religion that arose in Cuba in the late 19th century, mixing elements from Roman Catholicism, spiritualism, and the West African Yoruba religion. Santeria is a ritualistically oriented religion, meaning that the proper execution of ritual is more important to its practitioners than in faith in the rigid dogma. And one of the Santeria rituals is animal sacrifice. In Santeria, faithful don't try to hide their sacrificial practices, and why would they? In their eyes, it's all part of their perfectly valid religion. Priest Akintan Shingod's Anjula told Channel 2 Action News that the sacrifice of a male goat is done to celebrate victory. And whatever that may be, a female goat, on the other hand, can be sacrificed on behalf of someone wishing for children. A history of sacrifice. This recent spate of goat sacrifices only time the Santerians have caused public hubbub with their sacrificial practices. In 2019, reports started surfacing of them leaving decapitated chickens, goat heads, and coconuts by railroad tracks in the Atlanta metro area. Can you imagine being a train conductor and then just driving by all these mutilated chickens and goats and coconuts? Would you back up your train, or would you just pile in the coal and hit that lever on down and put the pedal to the metal and just fly on by? Well, we're getting ready to find out, because a retired train conductor said that he's seen thousands of instances of animals' parts laying by the tracks. That's despite the fact that under Georgia law, doing so is a crime. Can't do that in Georgia. It's like this camera don't want to pick up English at all. The Nigerian priest Ikinatude Sengoskasakin Ajili, living in Birmingham, Alabama, told Channel 2 Action News that at the time about Santeria's sacrificial rituals. In a sacrifice, we can use rooster, hen, pigeon, goat, snail, any kind of animal, Ajili said. Although the variety of Santeria he follows doesn't leave animal corpses on railroad tracks, he knew why it was done. According to Ajili, the ritual gets rid of evil spirits. The spirits are bound to the sacrificed animals, and the passing train blows them away. This is pretty wild stuff. So that is your news headline for the day. Hope you... And we're back with, some more random goodness, I guess, maybe, possibly. Answering the first comment of the day, maybe the only comment, because I got a feeling that everyone's probably in the bed. Our magnificent friend, Mr. Sideburns, says, "Hi, CB, just finished my current stream, hopping on to say hi, hello, how are you, and how are you doing?" I added all that extra stuff because it's me. Okay, so let's talk about what we're looking at. I got my pencil ready for the sketching. I don't like this lack of definition with the camera, but what can I do? I don't know how to fix that on stream. It's just how it is. Maybe I can zoom out here and let you all get a gander, those of you watching live and those that will be watching the magnificent replay. So about that high, I think we'll do. And I'll just kind of do this, and this is what we're looking at here. this is a commission piece. Commission piece. It is probably, I would say, yes, I think it's safe to say this is probably my first paid gig uh, for comics. I think so. I have been paid in the past, very rarely and very seldomly, to draw, um, do some commissions for people to draw things. You know, one person many moons ago had a art thing that they had going on where they had to draw something for class, and I got paid in Yoo-hoo and $20, a case of Yoo-hoo and $20. That's what I requested. I wanted some Yoo-hoo and $20. I thought that was reasonable, and they got an A. They got an A to that project. But no, this is not a school project. This is for a comic, and I hope when I get done with it, that the recipient will be pleased with my efforts. I think it's turning out pretty good. I'm fairly happy with it. Maybe I could just come down here just a little bit more. And so I'm excited about that. You know, I hope they like it, and I hope it goes over well. You never know how somebody may react. They may be like, yeah, this is not what I envisioned at all. Quick comment here. Smexy lady right there. Smexy. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I was going for. Going floor with the elf. I don't know why I said it like that. Going floor. And it would help if I actually had a ruler handy. Got to use these sideburn cheap tools. There we go. I hate rulers. I hate them. If I could just, develop those CB powers just a little bit more, to where I could just won't even need to use a ruler. I can just do it freehand. That would be most excellent. That would make my day in a wonderful way. Let's see. Why do you hate rulers, CB? Well, I guess where do you draw a line? Where do you draw the line? I'm liking this comedy that's coming from you. I have these spurts of wittiness, but they seldomly come to me when the appropriate moments arise. It's always off keister. I like that. Where do you draw the line? But to answer the question honestly of why I don't like rulers, I think it might be like an attention span problem on my part. I just I really it's very tedious. It's very tedious for me to sit there and draw all these lines, and I guess it wouldn't be so bad if I didn't have to go back and ink it as well. So I think that's part of the problem is for me personally, is this going back and having to ink something that I've already spent a lot of time drawing, because the penciling style that I have is I guess is what they call the 90s style. I don't think of it as necessarily, well, I mean, it is the 90s style, but like I don't like to necessarily phrase it that way. I just call it the maximum effort style. To me, like, it doesn't matter if you draw Western comics or Western comics, English CB, Western comics or manga or what is the manga version in Korea? They got a word that starts with an M that's kind of play off manga. It means manga, same thing. I forgot what it's called. But anyway, the point is, I'm a fan of maximum effort comics. You know, I like the idea of doing your absolute best or something that's the closest to it that equates to it. You know. So I got this 90s style. Oh yeah, yeah, I remember now. This 90s maximum effort style. And when it comes to inking that type of style, basically, essentially, for the most part, you're just tracing because it seems like from the um, I'm guessing like maybe from the 40s, well, earlier than that, actually, 30s, from the 30s all the way up to the late 80s, somewhat in the 90s. The way that the inking used to be done was you had a penciler that would pencil something, and sometimes it would be a little bit more basic. Um, this was my first rough draft of Fantasy Woman, but a little bit more basic. And the inker would come in, and depending on the level of detail, usually the inker would add their own touch to it, you know, their own type of shading, cross hatching, feathering, what have you, you know. And then sometimes a really good colorist would add to it, but a lot of that fancy work didn't really come to the equation until much later, I think. But something happened in the 90s where everybody and their mother was trying to do these pencilers were trying to do these uber detailed pencils, you know, and they were really pushing the limits of what you can publish in a comic in terms of the just pure art, you know. And I would argue that it was already done many moons ago by a lot of the people that did horror comics, you know, for like I guess like Warren magazine and stuff like that, you know, Crypt Keeper, whatever it's called. I forgot forgot the name of that book, but those artists were doing phenomenal stuff, and it took the 90s for a lot of Western comics doing superhero stuff to catch up to that level of detail or that level of enthusiasm or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how to put it. Some of this was done for these artists to kind of separate themselves and get themselves known or seen, that type of thing, and then mostly because it looked cool. I think that was one of the bigger reasons. It just looked cool. I don't know how to draw this hand. I'm going to try to figure it out. Uh, okay. So anyway, in the 90s, so you had this explosion of artists that were doing these uber detailed pieces. And so for the first time, there was a clash between inkers and pencilers in terms of how to render the pieces, because inkers were so used to having that freedom of embellishment and adding these details and stuff like that. But a lot of the 90s art at the time was so detailed that there was no need to embellish on it. You essentially just traced what the artist had drawn. And many inkers just rebelled. You know, they just they would leave a lot of the line work out, a lot of the feathering, cross hatching, because I think most of them were inexperienced with that type of detail or level of quality or something. You know, I'm throwing a lot of inkers under the bus. I don't mean to. Um, and there's like dead lines and all this other stuff. So that's another thing to add to that. And there was other changes that happened as well. You know, a lot of the penciling style that had developed in the 90s was basically this. Well, how should I put it? Like it coincided with the evolution of coloring in comics. And what I mean is there was the colors kept improving in comics going back from I guess the 30s all the way up to the 90s. Coloring techniques and all this other stuff. So artists learned to render and feather and crosshatch to give their art a 3D look. So when the time came when it was colored, that would be like the final touch. But nowadays, after the 90s, there was this weird pendulum shift where the coloring got so good that now the colorists are giving things a 3D shape with their colors, and it's clashing with the 90s aesthetic of the art because it makes a lot of that cross hatching and feathering, which is awesome looking, it makes it irrelevant and no longer it doesn't work. So one or the other has to yield, either the colorist in this modern generation or the pencilers in this modern generation, those that do the super detailed stuff, has to yield or pull back a little bit in how they do things, because you have it's a lot like working as part of a team. Well, it is part of a team, but like a tag team, like pro wrestling. And so you basically want to make sure that that you're working together to make something that looks really cool. And I think there's sometimes a bit of conflict that comes with that. Hmm. Okay, so what is this thing over here? I don't know what that is. Erase. For anybody just tuning in or fast forwarding through the video, I wonder how many people do that. Here's a fantasy lady I'm working on. We talked about headless goats. Sorry if you missed that. Watch it in a replay. And we haven't talked about the other stuff that I'm going to be working on in the future. I got Super American, which is coming, a public domain character that I'm sprucing up and trying to do some cool stuff with, you know. And I actually have maybe like this might be like page 1 of that. Forgive some of the wonkiness. I promise that when I render or draw these things, that this stuff will look a lot better. But I've been trying to channel a lot of different things. You know, I've got something kind of resembling Arthur Adams' Smoke. Really like the way he does Smoke. And trying to experiment and channel a little bit of the vibe of George of the Jungle. Oh, come on, Teen Titans, George Perez. There we go. Some George Perez rubble. I like the way he does his rubble. As far as like the trees and rubbery, the last time I actually did any serious studying on that stuff, I was looking at Tony Danielle. And maybe Jim Lee, because I think that's where Tony Danielle got a lot of his shrubbery was from that. What is this guy doing in the background? The way I got his all right, so here we go. Much better. I wish the camera was a little bit better than what it is. I got some really awesome ideas that I'm wanting to do, that I'm wanting to try out for the show. I talk about these things all the time, but like I've got something that I feel is more implementable that I can do soon. But the basic problem is I just need to start writing some scripts and that sort of thing to add a lot more polish and play around with the technology to see, what works and what doesn't. So I got a lot of that going on. But I think once I get everything lined out, it's going to be pretty cool. The only problem is, I won't be able to do a sketching past midnight episode as frequent, which I don't do them that much anyway. So it'd be like maybe this show would be like a once a week occurrence if I go the route that I'm wanting to do. The only bad thing is technical difficulties like this where things are blurry. I don't like that. I hate that. It's that sucks. And also where my live streams sometimes they just crash. Audio goes out. You know, all these different things. It's very annoying. I think I need to cover this guy like that. Draw that. All right, some other things that I'm working on that figured I'd mention since I'm self-promoting as always. Um, oh, that's a big axe. I think I need to draw the handle just a little bit smaller. Is I plan on releasing the original, the OG comic of Wildcat, the one that never saw mass production, mass print, or whatever, and calling it Rough Cuts. I got to thinking about it. I was cleaning a table one day and I was contemplating life. I was really thinking about things, giving things a big gander, and part of it just kind of hit me, thinking about the work and effort that went into it, and nothing really came of it. And also, like I'm very concerned about my output as an artist. I feel like I need to have more stuff out there that I've drawn that people can look at and enjoy or whatever. Have a body of work, start building stuff up. So with that in mind, with those two things in mind, I decided that I'm going to release the original failed Indiegogo comic Wildcat, which was supposed to be the first issue of an ongoing series. And I just need to work on the script a little bit because when I went to go letter it, I couldn't fit everything in that I wanted to. But I'm going to get that back out, and what I want to do is slowly over time, for everybody that gave me an address on the Indiegogo, I think I'm just going to go ahead and for free, out of my own pocket, mail it, get it printed, and get it sent to all the people that backed the book originally, as a way of saying thank you. You're appreciated. I see you. I'm not always the best person when it comes to replying back to YouTube comments or on Twitter or the Facebooks or the Instagrams and stuff like that, and I've explained why in the past. I'm just wired weird like that, and I really, really do apologize about that. I try to get better at that. Some days I do good, and other days I do bad, and and it'd be like 2 months pass by, and I finally write somebody back, and sometimes I never do, and people think that I'm ghosting them, and when I'm really not. What it is sometimes I see the comments scrolling my phone or like a message or something somebody sends me, and maybe they wish me a happy birthday, and it's like, oh, that's really cool, and I think that in my head, and then life, I let life take me away on these little journeys. But for whatever reason, I end up forgetting carelessly about the time and effort somebody sends me into sending a comment or a message, and then I find it later, like a weeks, months, year later, and like, oh man, I never did write that person back, and so now that person, rightly so, probably has this perception that I don't care about their thoughts or them or whatever, and that I'm ghosting them. But that's not it. I may unintentionally ghost people by my actions, but in my heart, I got the best intentions, for everybody. If that makes sense. Answer a few comments. One comment. Ashton Jackal writes, "I'm watching, but I'm just listening." Very ominous. Yep. So I'm excited about all these possible developments that's happening. All of it requires getting out of my own head and just drawing, you know, drawing, drawing as much as humanly possible, and also, working on my YouTube. I finally, after many eons, which equates to like about a month, almost close to a month. I had pretty much this creepypasta in the can, which was called Dr. Sammy. But I spent more than a day or two editing it, and because I do that, my brain shuts down, and it feels like, hey, you've already done the work on this. It's like time to move on to something different, which is another bad character trait of mine, or whatever. Time to move on, and which is God. If I want to have a career in comics, that's something that I got to work on, like you wouldn't believe. Because if you want to have a career, you got to be able to sit down and do the work. Don't no daydreaming. Just go out and do your thing. Let me darken these flames a little bit. Maybe try to make them pop a little bit more. I'll get back to the creepy pasta. I feel like I had something else to say about it, but I forgot what it was. When I as I was penciling this piece, one of the things that I wanted to do, and it wasn't really necessary to do it in the penciling stage, but I needed to do it because I was kind of getting lost on what the heck I was drawing, because there's so much stuff going on in the background, that I took the time to basically darken an outline going around the things that were in the foreground, so that way it would separate the foreground from the background, and it would make what I want to pop more pop. I really like that outline crap. The first time I ever noticed it was, and I can't pronounce his name because I can't pronounce somebody's name, Mike Wendigo, Waringo, something like that. The first comic I think I ever noticed that he drew was he did like a fill-in on the Avengers. It was like a anniversary issue or something like that. And then I can't remember if it was the Amazing Spider-Boy for Amalgam Comics, or if it was Sensational Spider-Man that came next that I saw his work, but that's where I first became aware of him. And that's what he would do. He would do these dark outlines of things that were in the foreground, and it really made stuff pop in a really cool way. And I like that. I think that's really cool. I noticed that when Joe Mad was drawing comics for himself with what was that book that had Red Monica in it? That big breakaway character, mostly for the TNA. I'll think of it here in a second. Just give me a minute, and I'll have it figured out. What was that book? Battle Chasers. There we go. It came to mind. Battle Chasers. So Joe Mad doing Battle Chasers. I don't know if it was Joe Weems or Townsend or somebody that he had inking for him, but that was something that they would do. I don't know if it was something that Joe was actually putting into his art, but um, during that time in the late 90s, early millennium, when he was working on Battle Chasers, that was something that was popping up more in his art. I mean, I'm sure it was there during the time when he was working on X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men, but it became a lot more prominent and more noticeable. The only problem that I can see with doing that is like with the super detailed stuff that I'm attempting to do from time to time, that it may clash. But so far, it's not doing that. You know, it's coming out in really nice and interesting ways. So I'm happy with it. The other thing is, and I don't know if you're going to notice this either, since I'm talking a lot of shop here. I'm doing a lot of. I really like the feathering that was done in the 90s and late 80s by people like what is his name, Bob something or other. He drew Iron Man there for a while. May even he had a long stint on Iron Man actually, and he later became he's one of the people that ousted Jim Shooter from Valiant Comics, and this guy kind of took over as president for a while, and his name is not Bob Daisy, not the bass player from Ozzy. Um, Whatever. But anyway, he does a lot of that when he draws, and and uh, and so that's something I'm trying to implement. Dale Keon did it a lot in the 80s and 90s in his career, and he started phasing it out after the first six issues of Pitt. Now, in the first six issues of Pitt, Dale Keown was still using this technique, which also done by John Byrne. And I know you can't really see because my camera is chosen to be special tonight, but this feathering thing. But when Dale Keown was doing Pitt during the first six issues, he started incorporating a lot of Jim Lee cross hatching, which was really awesome. It was the perfect complement to what he was doing. He did it so tastefully. And then after the first six issues, he started moving away from it to this more ultra clean style, which I'm not really a fan of. I mean, his art still looks good, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't as epic. You know, he built up to like peak epicness in the first 6 to 8 issues of Pitt, and then after that, the change in art style, which was hit and miss, in my opinion. Well, wasn't it didn't have the same grandeur. Yeah. Uh, Josh Fox writes, "Your female characters have drastically improved. Looks really good. Thank you. I really approve. I really approve of that. I'm the approver now. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I really appreciate that. The lady that I'm drawing here, this fantasy character, my first, I think so anyway, my first commissioned get paid money thing for comics, and I use reference for this. So this is actually some model, Instagram model on Instagram. I can't remember her name, but I used that pose. I thought that pose was pretty badass, and I had no clue what I was going to put in the background. Um, but I wanted something that I felt like told a story, and initially, the one thing that I could think of that didn't really clash, that add a cool aesthetic, was putting this big brute. Got like two arrows sticking out of him, a sword, and all that other crap. Putting that big brute in the foreground there, and then I thought, well, maybe I can just add some like this danger that's in front of her, but she's so badass that after she took out this guy here, that whoever or whatever is associated with him, they're all seeing it, and they're not so keen to attack right away. You know, they're having to um, really think about it. You know, give them reason to pause, and she's exuding so much confidence with the thing that she just did. Super confident. Oh. The only problem is just drawing all this stuff, you know, drawing all these things. But you know, I think when I get done with it, you know, it's gonna make it all worthwhile, you know, because it'll look cool. So I was talking about the inking techniques, feathering and stuff like that. I'm really getting into the feathering techniques, inking techniques of not Bob Hall. I think Bob Hall was the guy who drew he drew this Valiant character, not Nightman. Nightman's Malibu. What is that? What is that character's name? I don't know what his name is. Um, but it was a cool character. No, not him. This guy did Iron Man for a stint like in the 70s, a little bit in the 80s, and then he also took over for Jim Shooter at Valiant Comics. I'll think of it here in a second. But anyway, I need to draw this guy's head more in the foreground, so that way he's overtaking the axe, so it don't look so unnatural. This Bob guy also drew a 4-issue miniseries for Hercules. That might have been in the 80s when that took place, which, interestingly enough, this guy's made a compelling argument that Marvel basically stole the personality of his Hercules that he did for him and transplanted it into Thor in the movies, which I definitely see, because the traditional Thor has a lot of thous and these and stuff like that. The character of Hercules in the comics was a lot more fun, drunk a lot, had uh, he just had a good time. He just had a good time, and that's more of the Thor that we see on screen, even though that's more of a traditionally Hercules personality that this artist slash writer gave him. But I'm trying to do the inking techniques that this guy did, the line work inking techniques that John Byrne was doing in the 90s, and also Del Keon bringing it back, baby. Maybe it never really went away, but it just kind of fell out of practice with a lot of modern artists. That makes sense. All right, so I need to pull my reference up and get this hand here. I need to get this hand rendered. Got my phone. Is it going to show text now? Nope, still blurry. Most unfortunate. I got this song, "The Boys of Summer," from Don Henley playing in my head. I'm trying to pull up my reference right now. The empty streets that I know. Okay, here's my reference. So that's what I based it off of. It's pretty cool reference. I promise that the you know, the only bad thing is when I drew it, her head, which is slightly at an angle, and it's a little bit smaller, so I kept playing with different head sizes, and I struggled with that. which I feel like, my version still turned out pretty good. And I drew like several different, um, I started out drawing like this, but I felt like as I was trying to get the body and head proportions right, that I wasn't having a lot of room for her arm and stuff. So, because it ended up right on the edge of the paper. And I also did a couple of sketches in my handy dandy sketchbook to try to get down the look, things with the face, the angle of the face, and all that other stuff, the body shape. I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out so far. There's always things that absolutely can be better, should be better. It's just one of these things I have to work on as time goes on, as I get more um, better. I tell you something else that's very interesting about me working on this stuff is, I'm incorporating elements of other stuff that I've drawn, these experiences that I have of drawing other stuff is finding its way into this, and it's giving me the confidence to just draw. Some of you be like, CB, what the heck are you talking about? I don't really understand or follow with this weird um, Jabberwocky talk that you got going on. Okay, fine, all right. I will try to make a more compelling or convincing argument. Look at that hand. That's the best hand of all mankind. Just give me 1 second. I'll make a more compelling case, I think, maybe. I don't know. God, it's an awful looking hand. I'm trying to draw this. Let me get my notebook and I'll explain to you what I'm talking about. And I think this would be really cool for anybody that is just now starting out drawing comics or attempting comics or drawing in general, or maybe you're like me and you're getting close to intermediate skills and you need to hear that certain word or that phrase or idea said that really clicks in your head that helps take you to the next level. These magic words that I like to say, as I call it. Got my notebook. So here, we could see some of the sketches that I've done. This one right here was pretty cool. This was actually a Bill Goldberg head of him yelling. Looks nothing like Bill Goldberg. That's okay. I really like how his cheekbones and this jawline morphed and mutated in really cool ways. And I was like thinking maybe I can incorporate that. That's pretty neat. I think the only other place that I've really seen that done in traditional comics or whatever comics is by Wallace Portacio, when there was this really cool advertisement they had for Heroes Are Born Iron Man, where it had this guy that was like a terrorist or something, and he was shooting or whatever, and he had this side profile shot, and something like that kind of sort of came out. But yeah, okay. This ain't the best example, but roughly maybe about a year ago, I started trying really hard to work on my women and to figure it out. And one of the things that I did that really helped me was to quit trying to rely on YouTube personalities, YouTube videos, art books, just whatever, to allow these outside resources to quit relying on them for how to do things. It's almost like you keep waiting for that magic word or that magic phrase to come that's going to enlighten you and make you a comic book artist or writer, inker, letterer, pro wrestler, whatever it is that you want to do in life, and I started looking more inward, like instead of like trying to do this stuff that these other guys are doing, and they seem to do it so well. I just need to figure out my own way on how to draw comics. That's not to say to disregard other people's advice or anything like that, but it's really struggling, and so what I did was like I would look at poses from uh, most of it was from like J. Scott Campbell and Arthur Adams was the two big ones. That's who I'm looking at when I study my women. Um, there are other resources as well. I'm a big Loish, Loish fan, big Loish fan, and I used to really like Art Germ stuff, but I kind of got out of it. There's some other. There's this guy named Paleo Pantana, maybe. He's done some Lady Death stuff. He also did a couple issues of Genie for Aspen Comics and a lot of different stuff. He's a fantastic artist. So anyway, so I'm looking at these people and I'm looking at their art and I'm trying to figure out how they draw their poses. So what I try to do is I break down this basic structure of what they're doing, and we can actually see it here. So there was like this butt pose, this butt pose, and I was like thinking like, okay, there has to be a simple way where I can do this because just drawing it blind and just trying to draw it right away, it's just not working. So I need to get that basic skeletal structure down. And so if you look in my notes here, it's like, okay, so I can start a line here, this little bent thing. So this is where this back's going to go. And then I figured like, okay, so now I need all these lines here. So this is my shoulder line, and this is the back line where kind of like the spine is curving in and then it's curving out to the butt. So this is the kind of like the midsection, the break in the back, and this is half the butt. This is half butt right here. This is the half butt line. And then here I start to add adding the 3 dimensionals to it, by just putting a small triangle here. Here I'm doing the dip in the lower spine going into the butt crack because here I'm putting in the thing that I probably should have started earlier, which is the center line, which is very, very important. And it's something that I forget half the time, but let me tell you this. If you're somebody that's beginning in comics or beginning in art or whatever, this is one of the most important things that you can put in when you're first starting to draw, which is the center line, because that tells you what angle your character is facing. And I had that problem a lot. Like I would draw, well, let's see, maybe I should get an ink pen here or something. This is like I still have issues with this, but it ain't as bad as it used to be. But so like I got some guy's head here, right? And I would draw his body. Sometimes I like to do a triangle thing, and it doesn't matter. Big old dude here I'm drawing. So anyway, I start to draw his body and stuff, and the angle is supposed to be facing this way, right? But because I drew the center line right here, all of a sudden he's facing dead ahead. So just by drawing this line on different angles really influences where that character is facing in a 3D space, where that character is facing toward the reader. So, if I was going to draw him this way, I need to make sure that that line is this way. And so everything else that I draw would be going in that direction, Let's see. So there's that. Yeah. So that's coming together fairly decent. Just this little quick sketch thing. So as you can see, hopefully, I mean, I know you can't really see really well because my camera is just being really crappy tonight. But that center line is really key, because now this character is facing in that direction, and it's this line right here, the center line of the body. So anyway, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I kind of got off a little tangent maybe or something. Um, I've done a lot of research, starting last year with drawing women and stuff like that, trying to figure out different ways to draw stuff. This thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing I got from Instagram from different artists. Don't ask me who they are. I just really like their art, and so I would try to take the best of what they did and incorporate it into what I'm doing, and figure it out, And so I would kind of do my own thing. That's usually what I do when I study other people. Like I try to do as much as I can of what they do, and then I add in my own flavor to try to make it my own. But anyway, so a lot of this stuff has really helped me when it comes to drawing nowadays. And I find that the more that I draw, the more I go back to those things I drew before, and it gives me a sense of confidence, because what you end up doing is you figure out ways to do things, and problem solve. And I think that's like the biggest thing when it comes to making comics. And I think it probably applies to writing comics as well. Problem solving. I remember it seemed like Jim Lee had this thing where he said that when it comes to making your own style, and this is relevant to what I'm talking about, when it comes to creating your own style, a lot of how you create your own style, in his opinion, isn't so much like Frankensteining stuff together, which is the common, I don't want to say misconception, but it's the common belief most people have, like taking a little bit from Rob Liefeld, a little bit from John Byrne, a little bit from Jim Lee, a little bit from Wallace Portacio, just whatever your favorite artist is, and then just cobbling those together, which is kind of what I do. But And I think that's what a lot of people does. That's just my opinion. But Jim Lee said that when it comes to creating your own style, one of the biggest things that you can do that helps to make your stuff more unique is, instead of looking at what somebody else has drawn and aping that, taking that and making it your own, try to figure out how to draw something your own way without looking at anything. So what I mean is, and what he meant is, like if you're drawing hair, right? Drawing somebody's hair, and it's not coming out right. Instead of looking at Brett Booth, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, whoever your favorite hair guy is, you sit there and you look at maybe like a real life person's hair, a real model, or whatever, picture of family and friends. Try to draw their hair and try to figure out ways that makes drawing that hair easier. Try to figure out ways. Try to develop a system for drawing that hair, and then you find that as you're trying to problem solve it, you're coming up with cool, unique ideas that you've not seen anybody else do. I've had a few, and I don't really implement them as much as I should, because I don't know. I guess I'm more focused on trying to ape other people and do something that's successful that looks good. But I really agree with Jim Lee's thought of, like, look at what other people are doing. Don't look at what other people are doing all the time. Instead, when you run into a problem, try to figure it out yourself, because sometimes those creative solutions that you come up with become stylistic things that make you and your art or your writing or whatever more unique. And I agree with that train of thought. And there's something that I want to put in: Wildcat Dead Men Walking. I know it's not very legible, but just different little ideas, So my point is, I've done a lot of drawing, not as much as I should, but I'm finding that having worked on stuff in the past is impacting me now and making me more confident and able to draw stuff quicker and better and all this other stuff. So I think a lot of those sketches or bone structure things I was doing, trying to figure out how to draw women, really helped. And also I did some fan art of other people's stuff, and that fan art has helped me. So every little bit I think counts, means something. It adds up to something. I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think it's just an interesting topic that it can apply to a lot of different things, you know. Let's see. Answer a comment here. Josh writes, "What's her name for research purposes?" Ooh, well, you have to. Mm, it's not on the tip of my tongue. If I think of it, or maybe I may look it up later, I will let you know. But how about this? If you're still watching, Josh, I think what I'll do is maybe when the YouTube video is done, I'll leave it down in the comment section. I'll put her name in there because that way I'll have time to look it up instead of looking on the show, because I'll probably take me like 10 minutes to to find it. Okay. This is getting pretty close to inking, my opinion. Let's see here. Let's just draw some random eyes. You notice that when I start getting more serious about it and I'm actually having to do a lot more thinking when I'm drawing, I get really quiet. It's not very good. Doesn't make for very good YouTube time, but I'm getting better with thinking and, and walking, talking, and chewing my gum at the same time. Getting a little bit better at that stuff. Still is a struggle sometimes, you know. Can't even see what I'm doing. Can't see what I'm doing anyway because crappy camera quality. All right, I like that. I tell you, another problem that I have when it comes to me drawing stuff is I have a really bad, nasty habit of when it comes to like details that I just really don't want to fool with. I wait and draw them out during the inking stage, which is the worst thing that you can do. You know, the pencil stage is when you figure stuff out. Never ever try to figure stuff out when you're inking because it's not going to end well. Uh, so I'm trying to be more disciplined and figure my stuff out with a pencil first, because by the time I ink it, I can go in and do better than what I did before because I have something to work off of. But like little crappy little know nothing sketches is not going to help me, you know. So I really need to make the time to put in these details, you know. I'm adding these spear and sword blades in the background. Yeah, it looks fairly good. I guess I'm ready to start inking. I don't know. You guys think that I'm ready to slap the inks on there? Am I ready? Am I ready to get started and muck it up? Let's see, where's all my tools here? What time yins are pondering on that question. Got this random tool. Wonder if this is still working. Oh gosh, this thing's about dried out. This ain't gonna work. And I I know this is pretty dumb, but I'm using regular ink pens now to ink. But I will say this, it gives me the line thickness that I like, but the other reason why I'm using regular ink pens and this big round stick M, it's one of my favorite pens. The thing is, like, this will end up getting scanned and cleaned up digitally and stuff, and whatever inks I do with this will be made darker, and so it really just it doesn't matter, in my opinion. I don't think it really matters if you use a regular pen or not. I got my brushes handy somewhere. My son's been in here. He's been mucking around. It's got all my stuff mixed up. I like to get one of those sable brushes that all the pros use. That was used in the Marvel how to draw comics the Marvel way. It's like an $8 to $10 brush, I think. I think it's how much it is just for one brush. It's a big fancy brush. I got this thing, the Optimus, the Optimus Prime of pens. I got this at a I guess a Dollar General. I don't know. This does pretty good. Okay, I'm kind of scared. I don't. I think what I'll do is, instead of starting to ink this right now, I think I like to switch gears and maybe draw on this a little bit. This is a page from Super American that I'm working on, and for those that don't know, Super American is this public domain character that I made. I didn't make the public domain character. That's so dumb. It's a public domain character that I'm taking and I'm making it my own, you know. So this guy is from the future, and he goes back into the past to beat up bad guys in World War II, that type of thing. And I'm taking that story and I'm expanding onto it, and I'm taking it really cool and interesting directions. I'm giving him a arch nemesis to play off of in the World War II timeline. I also created Silver Eagle as his, and this is kind of the scale. This is how big Silver Eagle is in the comic compared to humans or whatever. So he kind of flies in the sky and shoots rockets and missiles and all this other stuff. You know, we've got you can't really tell, but we've got these National Socialists in their armor, you know, which makes them about 8 to 10 feet tall, and then we got these cops and various military types that are trying to fend them off as they invade North America, or whatever. And so I was thinking the whole first story arc is basically just Super American beating these guys back from North America before we even get into the European theater, you know, where we get into the battles that's happening in Europe, you know. And so I got, you know, cool ideas to go with that stuff. And let me get my what do you call it? References. I got to get my references handy. Geo. I can't speak the English anymore. I hear trouble coming. I hear trouble coming over and over again. You know, before EVS started playing that band, Royal Blood, I want to say on record that I was a fan of Royal Blood before he even started playing them in his intros. I don't know, they're just an awesome band. I really like them, and this other band, they're like the same type of band, but they choose to do things differently. It's like the differences and the similarities between Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, the similarities and differences between Metallica and Megadeth. Well, Royal Blood is similar to this other band, Death from Above 1979. I think that's what they're called, Death from Above 1979. So check them out. They're phenomenal. They're awesome. Death from Above's new album blows, though, in my opinion. I really like Royal Blood's new album, much better than them. But up to that point, I felt like Death from Above 1979 was kicking their butt, but they really went into some weird experimental stuff that just didn't work on their newest album, in my opinion. You all are so quiet tonight. You're gonna turn me into Bob Ross. I'm gonna start whispering to you turds. See how you like it. And then maybe I'll go from Bob Ross and I'll start coloring, and then I'll channel my inner Alex Ross, taking it to a new level. Oh, a little bit earlier I was talking about creepypastas, creepydrostas. I kind of got sidetracked as usual, but whatever. So I'm still working on those. I will start working on a new creepydrosta here soon. I pulled up a random story. I pulled up a random story for a creepy drosta. I've not even read it. I think I'm just going to read it and record it and just let the chips fall where they may, you know. And get that uploaded. Our good friend Flogan80, who is also on Instagram and on Twitter, says no Iron Maiden. Oh, I love Iron Maiden. You know, I don't like all their albums. No particular reason, but my favorite Iron Maiden albums is Iron Maiden's first debut album, Iron Maiden. Really like that. I like Iron Maiden's Brave New World, which came out sometime in 2000 something. I don't know if it was 2001 or what time. Maybe like 1998. I don't know. But Brave New World, I really like that album. And oh gosh, there's like a third album I'm leaving out by Iron Maiden that I really enjoyed. But they're a great band, fantastic. The second album, I can't remember if it was called Killers. I think it might have been. It's either the second or third. I really enjoyed that one too as well. But like my particular favorites, I'd say my top two is Iron Maiden 1, the first one, and Iron Maiden Brave New World. I really like those. The new album, they got a new album out now, and they did a song. That's so stupid. They did a song. They did a song, y'all. Did you know Iron Maiden did a song? Their new single. There we go. Their new single off their new album released like a week or two ago. I could be wrong on the timing on that, but it's really good. It's really good. It's definitely Iron Maiden, but the cool thing about it is Iron Maiden is doing some things that they've not done before. That seems like they would have done it at one point or another. You know, they got this the single that they got, and I can't remember what it's called, but basically they got this thing where they're incorporating this very 1980s Bon Jovi sounding outlaw sound that's really, really cool, you know. And then they basically Iron Maiden that sound, and then they take it to a new level by breaking into some little bit of metal, heavy metal. I tell you one band that as far as like old school metal bands that I'm really getting into here lately is KK Priest, KK's Priest. I think the guy's name is KK Downing. I'm not really for sure. And he is one of the, I think, the founding members of Judas Priest. And a couple of years ago, he had retired. He was done. He was out. But then I guess he changed his mind. He's like, "Hey guys, I want to come back to Judas Priest," and they was like, "Nah." And he got really offended at that. But to be fair, the guys in Judas Priest, they had hired a new guy to take his spot, and the guy's a really good guitar player. This younger dude, which I don't know. It's however you feel about it. But anyway, that KK guy, he decided like, hey, I don't want to be sitting on the sidelines anymore. I want to do something. So he put together his own version of Judas Priest. It's called KK's Priest. He got the former singer of Judas Priest from back in the 90s, Tim Ripper Owens, to sing on the album, which is pretty cool. I feel like a lot of the songs I've listened to, the lyrics are a little generic. I always like it when it comes to metal bands that the person singing the song is really into whatever the lyrics of the song is about, or whatever. And sometimes I feel like the Tim Ripper guy, when he's singing these songs on KK's Priest songs, that I don't know. I don't think he necessarily believes what he's selling. He's just basically trying to write songs that I feel like he feels would please the fans. But besides that, it's not always the case with all these songs from KK's Priest. But I will say that KK's Priest, I have heard maybe 6 songs now that have been released over the last couple months, and every one of them is a winner in my opinion. I mean, are all of them 10 out of 10? No. Some of them are 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 7 out of 10. But it's definitely they're all above 5. And it's beginning to look like this debut album from KK's Priest will be it's going to be good. It's really good. It's got some really awesome stuff on it. And so if you're a fan of stuff like that, go to YouTube and look up KK Priest or KK's Priest, which is kind of a dumb name for the band, if you ask me. I wish they kind of went with something different. But yeah, KK's Priest. So I think with that, we've got a lot done here tonight, guys. I imagine that many of you have been working on your own projects, drawing your own things. Probably, maybe you're at work. That's always a possibility, sitting back and chilling and listen to me pontificate about art and different things. Didn't really talk about any life issues. Haven't done that in a while. Might be overdue on that stuff, but I do feel like I gave out some interesting art tips or art advice, which is probably common sense to most of you. But if you're somebody like me that failed your driver's permit like 6 or 7 times, common sense is not something that is in abundance. Doesn't mean that you're dumb, but but it doesn't mean that you're smart in all the ways that count. So with that said, I think it's time to wrap this up. I just want to wish you all well. I always have this saying that I like to say that, be the change that you want to see. Be the tide that rises all ships. The truth is out there. I'm going to throw that one out now. That's a new one I was thinking about. The truth is out there. And carpe diem, baby. Seize the day. Okay? Don't wait tomorrow. Don't be lamenting yesterday. Seize the day. Carpe diem, my friends. Now, as always, this is CB Smallwood, and I will see you in the next video.